Not 6 months ago, the championship Denver Nuggets were devoured in 7 games by the new kids on the block, the Minnesota Timberwolves. This was a team partially created by Tim Connelly, who was also responsible for the Denver Nuggets creation spanning from 2017 to 2022. Needless to say, this Minnesota team was built to destroy what he had just created with Denver. Last night, the Timberwolves shipped off their star big man Karl-Anthony Towns with, according to him, no warning at all, for a trade package of Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick via the Detroit Pistons. There's always winners and losers of big trades like this, especially right before the season starts, so today we're going to discuss both teams and ultimately decide who won and who lost. Be sure to stick to the end and please leave your opinions in the comments below, as I love hearing from you guys. Without further ado, let's get right into this thing talking about the New York Knicks. The Nova Knicks were a short-lived pipe dream. In fact, we didn't even get to see a single minute of them on the court together. We had hopes of seeing the chemistry blast through our TV screens, but I guess we'll settle for a 7-foot, partially sassy, 40% three-point shooter. Jokes aside, I think Karl-Anthony Towns will bring a type of attitude that I fear Julius Randle just couldn't bring. Not to mention, I think Cat brings stability and health that Julius just could not bring to this Knicks team. Julius has been the front man for the Knicks for the last few seasons. However, in the last 2 seasons, it's clear that overnight, in the midst of his injuries, Jalen Brunson has become that guy. A long time we heard these guys like Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smiths, some of the guys who frequently speak about the New York Knicks franchise. We heard a lot of them saying the New York Knicks are such a fun team because they have a 1A and a 1B. Well, recently it's been a 1 and a 2, and Jalen is that 1 and Julius is that 2. Did Julius like becoming the 2? Well, it's hard to tell, but what's easy to tell is that Karl-Anthony Towns is coming from a situation where there's already a younger guard who's calling all the shots, and obviously his name is Anthony Edwards. We are looking at some coaching changes as well, and someone who is as hard-nosed as Coach Thibodeau, I think, could actually be beneficial for the defensive growth of someone like Karl-Anthony Towns. Not that these two players are entirely comparable, but I do have some hope that Karl can ascend into the defensive player that someone like Kevin Durant did. As Kevin was in the first, early Sonics, Thunder, even the first tiny bit of his Warriors tenure, it was really just pure scoring. But as time progressed, he became a very, very elite and reputable rim protector. And I'm hoping with Mitchell Robinson's help and Thibs' help that Cat can be just that. And the truth of it is Mitchell has been catching the injury bug just like Julius the past 2 years. And they just lost Isaiah Hartenstein, obviously, to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So now they're down rebounding, they're down some rim protection, and down some scoring. I think Karl could do a really good job of kind of stepping into those shoes and being great. Thankfully, with how this roster's been constructed, they have more versatility than arguably any team in the NBA. With guys like Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, it really makes it easy to excel in a system where there's at least 2 guys giving 110% on every single possession on offense and defense. One area I think Karl-Anthony Towns will do very well in is the pick and roll. If we just take a look at Minnesota's stats last year and the Knicks stats last year when we're talking about the pick and roll, Mike Conley and Jalen are 2 small left-handed point guards who are very, very smart and make great decisions. I think it's very, serviceable to compare these guys. Mike averaged 4 points a game out of the pick and roll per 5 possessions, which is about 0.98 points per possession, while Jalen averaged 12 points in 13 possessions, which is about 0.92 points per possession. These stats are courtesy of NBA.com, and they are up to date. I can only imagine how lethal this starting 5 is going to be out of the pick and roll when on the corner we have guys like OG Anunoby, we have guys like Mikal Bridges that's brand new, we have guys like Josh Hart. Like this team is going to be absolutely electric. As we think of this trade, we just are thinking about Karl-Anthony Towns, but we haven't even gotten to digest what Mikal Bridges is going to be with this team because that trade still hasn't hit the scene. I think Cat got the scapegoat treatment in Minnesota, and I think he will be just fine in New York, where somehow the lights aren't as bright when you have such a talented roster. I mean, there's going to be nights where Cat is the 3, the 3rd option, sometimes even the 4th option, depending on how well OG is playing. And that's not to say that he's not going to be great. Cat could have an all-star season. It's just the Knicks are so talented. As we move on to Minnesota, I think you let one go a little bit early. Karl has been nothing but loyal to this team. If we think about Minnesota basketball in the 2010s, Karl-Anthony Towns should be the first name that comes to your mind. He's been there for good and bad. He's never had a season where he shot under 40% from downtown. He was the Rookie of the Year. He's made multiple All-NBA teams, multiple All-Star selections, and he's been around for every playoff series since the drought. Obviously since you guys made the playoffs with Kevin Garnett and Sam Cassell. And that being said, Donte and Julius are pretty good yield in return in that pick as well. It doesn't scream winner to me. And the main reason is because I don't believe, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, I don't believe in breaking up teams before seeing what their actual ceiling is. Like, you guys got to remember, this team was 3 or 4 games away from making the NBA Finals last season. I think Donte especially will excel in the Wolves system. Anthony garners so much attention on the offensive side of the ball that guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Monte Morris, now Donte DiVincenzo, these guys all are so dominant behind the arc, and even in transition, the Knicks will desperately miss Donte's production in the postseason, and I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves will really love it, as he has shown up time and time again. As for the Julius part of this trade, I do think that if this is going to work out, Julius is going to need to understand and swallow the pill that it's not his team. I'm sure come the time, there will be game-winning opportunities for him. There's going to be times where they give him the ball in crunch time, but this is going to be more like a Paxton situation, not a Jordan situation. You know, he has to just play his role and love it. And that's not to say that Julius is not going to average 20 points. I'm not saying Julius can't be an all-star on this team. I'm just saying you got to know your role respectfully. Similar in the way that Paul George said it last year when he's like, Kawhi's the guy, I'm number 2. That's just how it's going to be. There are nights where I'm going to be 1, but for the most part, I'm number 2. Obviously, the tenure of PG and Kawhi is over. I just thought I'd mention that. All in all, I actually do think that this is a loss for the Timberwolves. Just from a fit standpoint, I may show some bias, as I just spoke about earlier. I'm just not a big fan of demolishing a team that was 3 games from the NBA Finals. Now, if you don't come close next year and then the Knicks make the NBA Finals in what some would argue is a less competitive Eastern Conference, it just doesn't look good. It's, you know, Cat's been nothing but loyal to this team. I just want you guys to do yourself a favor and Google Karl-Anthony Towns Game 7 Denver Nuggets 2023 NBA Playoffs, and you'll understand why they should have kept him. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. Who won this trade and who lost? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, you know I appreciate your support as always. It feels great to be uploading again. Have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, healthy, and blessed. Peace.